Hello. A significant port developed at what is now known as Hengistbury Head, south of Christchurch in Dorset, where a headland was defined and fortified by double dykes around 700 BC. Seagoing vessels had access to a gently sloping beach, and there were navigable routes inland for small boats along the rivers Avon and Stour. Remains of Mediterranean amphora discovered on the headland are evidence of imported wine, olive oil and fish sauces. Exports are likely to have included hunting dogs, cattle, hides and corn, along with metals such as iron and bronze, and possibly slaves. A close and regular connection between the Celtic inhabitants of Armorica, broadly the area of modern France bounded by the Loire and the Seine, and Britain, particularly the Atlantic facing southwest, and the Channel coast eastwards as far as Dorset and Hampshire, was long established when the Roman army began their advance into Gaul in the mid-1st century BC. Greek historian Diodorus of Sicily wrote of extensive cross-channel trade links, and Julius Caesar described auxiliary forces from Britain supplementing Armorican resistance to the Roman advance led by the Veneti tribe, whose skills as sailors he praises. The heartland of the Veneti was in western Armorica on the Brittany Peninsula. There is evidence of substantial migration from Britain to Armorica in the late Roman period, and from the late 5th and early 6th centuries, the arrival there of several Welsh missionary saints, famously St Samson of Dol. A life of St Samson confirms strong links between the church in Ireland, Wales and Brittany in this period. The British monk Gildas, whose important and informative commentary on the ruin and conquest of Britain we covered in part 5, ended his days at Rhys in Brittany around 570, where he had founded a monastery. Gildas tells us that Magnus Maximus, a Roman military leader assigned to Britain in 380, led successful campaigns against the Picts and Scots before depriving Britain of its Roman troops along with the flower of its youth, leading them to Gaul, eventually seizing control of the Western Roman Empire in 383 from Emperor Gratian. In the early 9th century history of the Britons attributed to Nennius, which we covered in part 7, Maximus withdrew from Britain with all its military force, killed Gratian to become emperor, and settled land in Armorica on the troops who had accompanied him. In tradition, Maximus marries Ellen, a Welsh princess, and as such is ancestor to several Welsh tribal chieftains. He is named on the 9th century commemorative pillar of Eliseg, close to the ruined Abbey of the Valley of the Cross near Llantysilio in Denbighshire. A daughter, Severa, is said to have married Vortigern, the proud tyrant, accused by Gildas of sealing Britain's doom by inviting in the fierce and impious Saxons. As the 5th century progressed, having already abandoned Britain, Roman power in Gaul declined. The local population took over much civil administration, and faced with incursions by Germanic Goths, allied themselves with the remaining Roman forces to counter the threat. Warriors from Britain came to their aid. Jordanes, a mid-6th century official in the Byzantine Eastern Empire, who probably had Gothic ancestry, wrote 2 histories, one of which focuses on Rome and the other on the origins and deeds of the Goths. In this, Jordanes tells of a British king he labels Riothamus, a title rather than a personal name, Latinised from a Brittonic word meaning something like great leader, who goes to the aid of the Veneti around 470. The existence of Riothamus is substantiated by a letter addressed to him from Sidonius Apollinaris, the Bishop of Clermont, in what is now the Auvergne region of France, in which he accuses Riothamus and his troops of encouraging slaves to join the resistance. According to Jordanes, Riothamus is eventually defeated by a Visigoth army of superior numbers. It's an interesting episode in that it has parallels with an account by Geoffrey of Monmouth in his 12th century History of the Kings of Britain, in which he says King Arthur spent 9 years campaigning in Gaul. In Geoffrey's account, Arthur, like Riothamus, is allied with the Bretons against declining Roman power. As Roman authority collapsed, a move to expel Roman forces was replaced by a pragmatic alliance, faced with the threat from the Goths. The similarity of campaigning in Gaul has led to the figure of Riothamus being suggested as identifiable with Arthur, and or the Ambrosius Aurelianus, named by Gildas as a victor at the Battle of Mount Badon, and the town of Avalon in Burgundy as the Isle of Avalon, the place of apples or apple trees, where a wounded Arthur is taken after his final battle, which receives its first mention in Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain. In his telling of the story of Magnus Maximus, Roman Emperor in the West from 383 to 388, drawing on established tradition, Geoffrey says control of Armorica at this time was devolved to a British leader, Conan Meriadoc, a cousin of Maximus's wife Ellen, from which modern Brittany emerged, a British rather than Gaulish kingdom. The Battle of Mons Badonicus, or Mount Badon, is recorded by Gildas, Bede, Nennius in the Annals of Wales, and later by Geoffrey of Monmouth, as a victory for the Britons over a combined army of Saxons, Picts and Scots, who may have been led by a shadowy but significant late 5th century figure called Cerdic, by tradition the founder of the West Saxon dynasty. He will be my subject next time. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.